Hey there everybody, it's Mecha Draco coming to you with another video, and in today's video we are going to once again, and for the final time, talk a little bit about gun control. Not to say that we won't probably talk about gun control in the future if something else happens, but regardless, it is something that I actually wanted to talk about. But specifically what I wanted to talk about today is I actually wanted to talk a little bit about solutions. Solutions to the issue that we come up with this whole big problem when it comes to gun control and such. So in my first video, I went on over the fact that, obviously, of course, there was the Parkland shooting in Miami. I went over the fact that they were obviously doing what they normally do in these situations when a mass shooting occurs. They, of course, jump the gun immediately, calling for massive amounts of gun rework and gun reform and everything else along those lines. They, of course, blamed everyone but the actual criminal for the act, and instead of, looking at reasons as to why these types of shootings occur, instead of looking into why people have these problems, they go into the weapon itself and just sort of go, well, why would we even need weapons? So on and so forth. My second video was about the fact that Trump was starting to go a little bit on the gun control side because of the fact that he was a little bit more on the, I want to talk about gun control. I'm going to raise the limit for how old you can be to actually get the gun to 21. So on and so forth. My disagreements, of course, with both, and of course, my opinion on the actual act and how much of a real big mistake it was for him to do that. Now, I don't know if things have carried on with that and everything, but I figured, that was something important to talk about at the time, at the very bare minimum. Now, today, what I would like to talk about is specifically solutions, as I said at the beginning. I want to talk about a solution to gun control, at least for now. What I think would be a good way to start working towards having an actual working solution for gun control. An actual working solution to the biggest problem that we have here in American society, specifically when it comes to guns. All right, for one, so what I wanted to talk about specifically to start off with is education when it comes to guns. One of the biggest things about our, system is the fact that we here in America are very oriented around guns. Second Amendment and everything like that, that is a God-given right, at least in our eyes. That is a right that is given to us, awarded to us by our Constitution. It's owning a gun, period. Just being able to own a gun is a much of a freedom to us here in America as it is to basically speak, because it's the First Amendment, and the Second Amendment is, just as important as the first. Third Amendment is just as important as the first. All of it's just as important, So the Second Amendment is one of those things that they put into our society, with our founders put into society, knowing full well what kind of weapons might be coming up in the future. They didn't ever anticipate it would only be muskets. They were, in fact, privy to knowledge of automatic weapons before automatic weapons were even actually fully industrialized. There were, in fact, automatic weapons even available to them in the founding fathers' time. There just were very, very rudimentary. But the idea would be is simply that those things existed, so they knew that those things would be around, especially in the future. So, with that being said, the fact that we don't put any kind of education into our education system about guns is, my opinion, a huge, huge problem. We go into a lot of education when it comes to speech. We go into a lot of education when it comes to law and all these other types of things. Even in our high school years, we have to learn a lot about government and other things like that. So the fact is why aren't guns just a part of our education system? If people knew more about guns, if people were more knowledgeable about guns, people would be less afraid of them. People would be less likely to attack a gun instead of looking at other things, especially considering the fact that everyone knows. I think that everyone should know, and if they don't know, they should definitely know, especially by now, that rifles, long guns, however you want to put it, are not the main killer when it comes to guns. In fact, there's absolutely no reason why they are even considered to be the most dangerous weapon in the world, or something else along those lines, because they're not. I don't understand why education in and of itself is not a really heavily oriented thing that we do here in America around guns. I mean, there are ways to obviously educate yourself on guns. The internet is a great place, for example. But I don't understand why it's not a part of our public education, our common education system, to have guns in there, to be educated about those guns, to be educated to understand them and respect them, as well as, of course, understand them a little bit more clearly. Number 2, I believe that there should, in fact, be some form or fashion of mental test before you can actually purchase a gun. I'm not entirely against the idea of raising the age to purchase a weapon to about 18. And I'm not really against the idea of a few regulations here and there. I honestly do believe, in my opinion, that there shouldn't be any regulations, but arguably, there are situations where it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to not have at least a little bit here and there. You know what I mean? Just to keep things within order. You know, background checks, so on and so forth. You know, individuals who have felony charges on their things shouldn't obviously get it. I think the domestic violence thing is also a good choice. You know, interactions with the military, so on and so forth. Because, you know, like what happened with the shooter who ended up killing like 15 people who got a gun, and he shouldn't have been able to get a gun, but he did because the military screwed up. You know, it was something like that. And it was just like, you know, I do believe and I agree that there should be more push on people when it comes to those types of things to make sure it's known. And I think that on top of that, you could add a test. And I think that it would be a good idea to have a test that exists similarly to like maybe a driver's license. You know, you have to actually be able to shoot the gun. You have to be able to actually like use the gun. You have to actually, you know, I mean, I don't see why we put so much regulation on driving a car when we know for a fact there are hundreds of people who are driving in my town alone who should not be in a car. That's for another video. But why is it you can just go into a gun store, just get a good background check and pick it up? You have no education. You have no proof you have any education of the gun. Only thing you have is money and the fact that you have no background that says that you would actually use the gun in a horrible way. Which they could just use patsies to just go and buy guns like this. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's got to be a way to improve our ability to detect whether or not an individual has a nefarious need or doesn't have any real education or something else along those lines with a gun. So, in my opinion, a test, similarly to like the way a driver's test works, would in fact be a really good idea, I think. And I do believe that there are a few places that do that kind of thing, but I don't know. But let's move on. There's a third one we got to get to, and only a little bit short left of this video to actually take care of it. So, number 3, transparency or honesty. I think honesty would be a huge solution when it comes to actual gun control. Instead of just using gun control as an excuse to try to push a narrative, instead of using gun control to sort of, you know, try to like remove guns just in general. You know, I mean, if you are, for example, a Democrat who believes that you should just remove all guns, then why not just say that? Just get rid of all guns. Just say it. Be honest. Let's be honest here. If you're a Democrat and you're a gun control advocate, guess what? You probably want to get rid of all guns. And don't just lie about it. Don't say, oh, I just want to get rid of the AR-15. Oh, I just want to get rid of... No, you want to get rid of all guns. You want to get rid of all guns. That's what you want. That's what you want to have happen, and you know you do. And don't argue that you don't, because you know you do. If you say that you have, like, a Democratic thing and you're totally about, oh, I want to get rid of this gun. I want to get rid of this gun. I want to get rid of this gun. If you have any kind of knowledge or any kind of introspection whatsoever, if you have any kind of introspection at all, You have to realize that if you say that you want to get rid of a gun, that you are pretty much saying that you want to get rid of all guns. Because once someone gets rid of one gun, they're just going to use a different gun, and then you're going to want to get rid of that one. And then they're going to use another one. And then they're going to use another one. And it's just a casual road down to the line where they just end up banning all guns. So, let's just be honest here. If you want to ban a gun, you want to ban all of them. That's number one when it comes to the honesty thing. Transparency. I also believe that when it comes to transparency, I think that the news, obviously, of course, should be more honest about what they're telling us, about how it happened, why it happened, blah, 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 blah. And instead of just blaming the gun, no one ever saying anything about, like, oh, the fact that this guy is insane, or the fact that, you know, all of these signs were brought up, and yet for some reason, nobody did anything. Instead of all of that, instead of talking about that, they talk about the fact that a gun is really dangerous. Even though there's like 3 other guns that are exactly the same. The AR-15 just looks like an M4. So everyone thinks, oh, it's military. Oh, it's an assault rifle. Oh no. The simple fact is, though, is that it's just one of those things. There needs to be some honesty here. There needs to be some transparency, some straight up honesty about why a gun should be banned. Is there a legitimate reason why this gun should be banned? I'm not entirely all that for automatic weapons myself. I don't think they should be banned, but I think they should be harder to get. And I believe that you can still get one technically, but you have to have like all these registrations and all these other things like that. You have to go through a huge amount of rigmarole just to get one, and it's like, now mind you, of course, anybody who legally gets it anyways is going to have to go through all that. Anybody who illegally wants an assault rifle can just go online. But I digress. So that's my 3 solutions to gun control, to primary problems with gun control: education, better testing, and transparency. That's my opinion. I think that because, and here's the biggest thing about that, if we had better education about it, they would be forced to be transparent about it. That's number 1. Number 2, if we had better testing, just mental testing or driver's license testing, more people could have guns. And more people would be able to protect themselves. I mean, let's just be honest here. For example, one of the biggest things for transparency is that nobody really understands or knows or realizes that there are a lot of people who are saved by guns. By the police, by civilians, by just random strangers on the side of the road. Someone else pulls out a gun, starts to go to town. Somebody else pulls out a gun, shoots him. Because he defended himself. He defended himself because he had a gun. He had the ability to defend himself. And of course, nobody ever talks about it. Even Fox won't talk about that. Nobody talks about the fact that there are people who save themselves and others with guns. But anyways, I am going to go on ahead and end the video there. I certainly hope you guys did enjoy. Please, if you like what I've had to say, or if you feel like you have anything else to contradict or add, feel free to do so in the comments box below. And of course, you know the drill by now. And of course, as always, guys, good luck out there. And don't forget to have fun.